It is 1980, a private island in Fiji, 1,600 miles from anywhere.
I don't know what they were thinking.
A grown man walks into a teenage boy's bedroom with a photograph in his hand. He pins it above the boy's bed. The photograph is of a 14-year-old girl. The boy is 18. The man who pinned it there is the director, and he wants the boy to start thinking about her and feel drawn to her.
I was evidently their master plan.
The girl is Brooke Shields. The film they're going to shoot is called The Blue Lagoon. The shots they showed you in the cinema and on your TV screen was never the real story. It is darker. Something her 14-year-old body could not fake. You probably think the scandal here is what ended up on screen, that it crossed the only line that mattered the moment the cameras rolled. And you probably assume that somewhere on that island, her mother, the crew, somebody drew that line for her.
I don't know what they were thinking. They wanted controversy.
Once you see how they built this film around her, you cannot unsee it. Before a single scene was shot, Brooke's mother, who was struggling with alcoholism, invited Brooke's co-actor Christopher Atkins to live closer to them. For the film, a tighter bond between the two was useful. It did not seem to matter whether that bond looked like brother and sister, or like a couple. Atkins himself, years later, said, "Although I was attracted to her, it was an insane position to put a 14-year-old girl in." And in the same breath, he kept pointing back to her age. Before any acting, the production gave both actors the same instruction: get an even, all-over tan, and prevent tan lines. The crew built a small screen spot where they could tan. Atkins remembered how strange it was that Brooke was that age, lying on the other side of a thin wall beside him. The film needed that look. Before they spoke a word of dialogue, her appearance had already been turned into a production asset. What got her the role in The Blue Lagoon was a bathtub photo shoot in a magazine called Sugar and Spice, and an adult role in the film Pretty Baby a couple of years earlier. Director Randal Kleiser had just come off the success of Grease. With his newfound influence, he wanted to adapt a novel he had admired since childhood, The Blue Lagoon. Two children survive a shipwreck. They grow up without parents, teachers, religion, or social rules. Instead of teaching both actors how to construct the relationship through performance, the production began attempting to create the relationship around them. Brooke did not know the full extent of that plan.
People were desperate for me to say yes.
4 years before, Brooke kissed an actor who was 29. That was the only experience with a man. The director attempted to manipulate attraction between a 14-year-old girl and an 18-year-old boy because he believed the camera would detect the difference between performance and reality. The strange truth is that the plan partly worked. Brooke and Atkins did develop chemistry. They spent months together. They collected shells, talked on the beach, and experienced the isolation of the production side by side. But he also recognized the contradiction. The film did not need them to become an actual couple. It needed the audience to believe that it was watching something actual. That difference became the product. The filmmakers were therefore asking a 14-year-old to portray stages of biological and emotional development that she had not yet processed in her own life, while privately hoping that some of those feelings would emerge for real. If you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered accurately, please like and subscribe. She had to portray the characters experiencing menstruation without knowing what it was. She had to show fear of her changing body. She had to reject Atkins' first attempts. She had to move from childhood friendship into romantic attraction. Then pregnancy, then labor, then breastfeeding, then motherhood. Brooke does not possess the vocabulary to understand any of these experiences. Neither Brooke nor Atkins has received an education about human reproduction. Their confusion was used as the dramatic engine of the film. The island presented on screen as an untouched paradise was a demanding and sometimes hazardous location. The production continued for approximately 4.5 months. She must do a childbirth scene, but the real Brooke was suffering from pneumonia. Her coughing and difficulty breathing became part of the performance. People watching the scene could interpret the distress as acting. It was not all acting. That detail captures the entire method. When the real physical condition matched what the story required, the camera kept recording. They described the filmmaking environment as something that could not exist under the same conditions today. There is another correction that matters. Terry Shields insisted on a body double for the exposed material involving Brooke. That double was Kathy Trout, an adult diver and stunt worker who had originally been hired for aquatic work involving dolphins. In distant and fully exposed shots, the body presented as Brooke's was Trout's body. Brooke's long hair was positioned and attached to cover her chest. Flesh-colored coverings were also used. Technically, those measures allowed the production to say that the 14-year-old actress had not performed the movie's fully exposed shots. Imagine, the production wants the audience to believe they see a 14-year-old body. But the safeguards protected only what the camera was permitted to show. They did not protect what the production was attempting to provoke. The body double could replace Brooke's body in a distant image. She could not replace Brooke's face. She could not replace her embarrassment, her confusion, her inexperienced way she looked at Atkins. And according to Brooke, those were the reactions the filmmakers really wanted. The young version of the character Emmeline was played by actress Elva Josephson. Brooke enters the story when Emmeline has already become an adolescent, but that did not make the role less demanding. It concentrated almost every major physical and emotional transformation into Brooke's section of the film. When the Blue Lagoon reached cinemas in 1980, the advertising sold a story of natural love. The critics were clear in their judgment. Roger Ebert called it the dumbest movie of the year. He argued that instead of seriously exploring what isolated children might become, the film created an idealized romantic fantasy. Other critics focused on the film's coyness. The camera promised a story about young discovery while strategically using hair, leaves, shadows, and carefully framed objects to conceal the body. The criticism revealed the trap that had been built around Brooke. The filmmakers had placed her in the center of a provocative story. The camera had marketed her innocence. The targeted advertising had converted that innocence into curiosity. Brooke received the first Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Actress. She was 15. At the same time, the cinematographer was nominated for an Academy Award for making the film look beautiful. Imagine that, the images were honored. The girl inside them was mocked. The controversy did not damage the product. The controversy was the product. The movie cost approximately $4.5 million and earned almost $59 million in North America. People magazine published that summer a story that asked the question directly in its headline: too much, too young? But once again, the adults were rarely required to provide the answer. Brooke was visiting talk shows and must defend herself against adult interviewers who had seen her on screen. She was expected to explain why audiences were uncomfortable with decisions made by directors, producers, publishers, and her mother. And also they questioned her about her body, desires, and private life. If you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered accurately, please like and subscribe. The child became the spokesperson for the mother and other adults who had photographed her. Brooke later said the interrogations by journalists disturbed her more than some of the work itself. Her public identity became almost impossible to separate from the arguments surrounding her body. The public treated her as provocative. Brooke said she often did not understand the meanings adults were placing onto her words and images. She appeared mature enough to be marketed as a fantasy, yet young enough to be blamed for not understanding the fantasy she represented. For years, Brooke defended her mother. The relationship with Terry cannot be reduced to the stereotype of the ruthless stage mother. Terry managed Brooke's career, enforced her school schedule, and sometimes constructed a powerful protective barrier around her. She allowed the sugar and spice session. She approved Pretty Baby. She insisted on the body double for the Blue Lagoon. And she encouraged greater closeness between Brooke and Atkins because it might help the film. Protection and exposure existed at the same time. Brooke later described it as a paradox. Her mother could shield her from one image while permitting an entire industry to build another image around her. They protected the image at the exact point where the law, the studio, and the audience could see a clear violation. Brooke said a movie could never be made that way again. She remembered the tan enclosures, the physical injuries, the forced proximity, the pressure to fall in love, and the strange fact that the production had not eased her into any of it. By then, Brooke had finally learned what the director believed he had been making. Not merely an adaptation of a novel, not merely two actors playing fictional characters. He believed the camera could witness Brooke Shields becoming aware of growing older. Brooke described the idea as pathetic. She said she had not been connected to her own feelings at all. She experienced shame around it. Yet men controlling the story believed they could package that part of her development as entertainment. In 2023, after the documentary Pretty Baby, Brooke Shields examined this history. The director called her. Brooke saw his name appear on her phone. She pushed him forward to the voicemail. She first wanted to hear his tone. He asked whether they could talk. She wasn't ready. Her explanation was larger than one director or one film. She said men had needed to place her into a particular category to serve their stories. The process had not been about protecting or understanding her. She described herself as a pawn. She had been useful to them. If you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered accurately, please like and subscribe. And that brings us back to the photograph above the bed. At first, it looked like a friendly gesture, but it was an isolated trick. It was a miniature version of the entire Brooke Shields industry. Thanks for watching.